Hi guys, welcome back. So today's video is going to be about scat singing or scatting, and of all of the jazz singing techniques, this is probably one of the most popular and the most commonly used today. But it does have a little bit of history, so let's get into it. So the long-form textbook definition of scatting is singing in which the singer substitutes improvised nonsense syllables for the words of a song and tries to sound and phrase like a musical instrument. And I know that that was a lot of words, but it has a really basic idea behind it. So think about when you're singing a song and you forget the lyrics and you know the melody, but you just don't know what the words are. So your reflex would be to sing la 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 or doobie doo or something like that to fill in that gap of the words that you don't know, but keep that connection of the melody that you do know. And that at its core is a kind of scatting in itself. And if the legends are true, that is actually exactly how scatting began. So many of you may have heard of a very famous jazz musician called Louis Armstrong. He's actually probably one of the most famous jazz musicians of all time. He's a very skilled trumpet player and has a very distinctive voice. You've probably heard his song, What a Wonderful World. But before all of that happened, he was recording a song with his band, the Hot Five, and recording the song Heebie Jeebies when his lyric sheet fell to the ground and he didn't know what the next words were going to be. But instead of cutting the take and starting over from the top, what he decided to do was improvise horn-like lines using wordless syllables with his voice. And that was the birth of scatting and is pretty much exactly what scatting still is today. It's simply a method where the singer tries to imitate what sounds a musical instrument might make. So when I say the sounds that an instrument would make, I'm talking about this kind of vocabulary that a lot of musicians are familiar with. And it's this set of sounds that, or syllables of sounds that sort of describe the different things, the different ways that instruments will play notes. So for example, if you have two notes and you wanted to play them detached, you might want to play them as do-da. But if you wanted to connect them, you might want to play them as do-wah. And for a lot of musicians, all it takes is for the director to make that distinction, to say those two syllables, and they know exactly what they mean and they can correct that mistake. And it's that same exact vocabulary that a scat singer needs to become familiar with in order to really excel at scatting. You need to begin to understand those different sounds. So the first step towards scatting would be to really sit down and listen to each instrument and listen to the way that the instrument plays a phrase and plays a set of notes, and you'll come to understand a few different syllables that you can use when you're scatting. Once you have a handle on those syllables, the next step would be to really know the music that you're going to be singing. So this is a very crucial step. No matter where in the song you're going to be scatting, you need to know what notes you're going to sing. So for example, if there's a part in the song where you don't normally have any words to sing, if the whole band is playing and you're resting, or it's the end of the song and you don't sing, if you decide that you want to sing with the band, you want to sing whatever they're playing in unison, you need to know what those notes are, not just because you need to know what the pitches are, but because it's very important that you know how the notes are phrased and how long each note is, because that's going to tell you which syllable you can use on what note. So let's say that I'm singing a scat solo and I have two notes that are short and two notes that are connected, and it's the two short notes and then the connected notes. I could use these two syllables. The first is zat, Z-A-H-T, and it ends on that T, so it's very short and it cuts off really quickly. And the other syllable that I would use is the one that I was talking about before, do-wah. It has those two connected notes, and the end of it doesn't have a consonant, so it just trails off whenever you want it to. I can control how long I want to hold that note. So if I were to sing the phrase, I would probably say zat, zat, doo-wah. I wouldn't go doo-wah, doo-wah, zat, zat, because that's the complete opposite of what I was trying to do in the first place. And I would only know what syllables to use if I first knew how the music was supposed to go. So that's something that you really need to be mindful of, and it's especially important when you have notes that are written in the score that are going to go along with the rest of the band, but it's also important when you are deciding to take out words from a lyric and put in a scat solo. So I want to take a step back now and just remind you that I've been saying all throughout this video the word improvise. And remember that in a previous video we talked about improvisation and how it's immediate musical composition. And for instrumentalists, this is what happens every single time. They just stand up, they don't have words to try to remember, they just have to worry about the melody that they need to keep in their brain, and they can play with that melody and create an improvised line all their own, and it's pretty simple for instrumentalists. It's not so simple for singers. Singers always have to worry about the lyrics to a song, and sometimes it's really difficult to improvise a line of verse because we associate the words with the melody so much. Scatting is one of those forms of improv that actually makes this much simpler, though, because you take away the necessity of the words. You completely eliminate the lyrics and you just use whatever syllables you're going to use. But it's still going to be very important that you know how you're going to sing your improvised line even without the lyrics, because if you don't know how you're going to phrase your line, if you don't know how long you're going to hold on to each note, then you're not going to know what syllables you need to use on those notes. So really, knowing the notes ahead of time is what's going to make your scatting sound really effortless and like you didn't try at all, even though in reality you practiced quite a lot and you perfected the art and the skill behind scatting. So once you've figured out all of your notes and you've really gotten comfortable with all of the different syllables and sounds you can use when you start scatting, it can start to feel like way too much fun. It becomes natural, and it doesn't take a whole lot for you to add in a scat solo to a song. But the one last thing that you have to make sure that you are mindful of in every song that you sing with scat is to maintain that balance between lyrics and scatting. Because as we know, every song has a meaning, every song has a message, and that message is going to be in the lyrics. So if you only sing the first 4 bars of a song with the lyrics and then the rest of it scatting, that really negates the whole meaning of the song. So being able to effortlessly move from the lyrics to the scatting, back to the words, and then maybe back to even more scatting is going to show your skill as a jazz singer and your knowledge of the song and all of the different sounds that you're hearing around you. So that pretty much wraps it up for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.